What is up, YouTube? Johnny B here again today, and today we're going to be working on a 2016 Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport 4x4. So stay tuned to see what mods we install next.
So here is the Project 2016 Tacoma. It's a TRD Sport 4x4 with, I think, around 10,000 miles. We recently swapped out the tires for some 33s. These are, I believe, 285/70/17 BFGs KO2s all around. And we're going to be installing some more mods to it today, which include a lift kit because it's a little bit short, and then the tires are kind of sunk in. We're going to be putting some spacers to bring out those wheels. We didn't feel like changing out the wheels, so we kept the stock TRD Sport wheels. I feel like they're going to look much nicer than your typical off-road tire. So here it is, TRD 4x4 Sport. We're going to be installing some running boards, I think that's what they're called, for here, so we can step on to the inside. And that's about it. It's just going to make it overall look much nicer with the lift kit. The wheels are going to stick out where they should be, and we can probably enjoy this thing off-road a bit. So this is a project that has never been on the channel. We've had it for about a year now, or two. I don't know. We bought it pretty much brand new with like 1,000 miles. We just haven't really modded till today. It needed new tires, so we figured we'd upgrade to these, which are my favorite tires for off-road vehicles. And let's make it look a bit nicer. I think we might have ordered a roof rack already, so that'll probably be later on. And it already has the tonneau cover. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's the factory Tacoma, Toyota one that says Tacoma on it. So can't get much better than running factory stuff on a newer vehicle like this. Not really modifying it too much, just something light. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is remove the wheels and tires. As you can see, I got all the bolts out. So now let's pull the tire off. Woo. Move it off to the side, make sure it doesn't fall. And here we are, we can access all this. You can see the very nice TRD suspension, comes blue, a little bit different. And we're gonna need to go ahead and take off these 3 bolts that are on top, 1, 2, and 3 right back there. Then we can essentially drop this off, but we have to do both of them at the same time because this sway bar is gonna be holding them together. Unless you go ahead and detach it from here, then you won't have that issue. But if we don't have to detach it and we just do them both at the same time, it's actually gonna speed up the process, so why not, right? And the wheel doesn't necessarily need to be removed because there is enough space above this, but since we're going to be putting on spacers to space out the wheels so that they have a nice flush fitment and aren't sunk in, might as well remove the tire, make our job a bit easier, and you know, get there quicker. So the first thing you want to go ahead and do is remove the hardest bolt first. You will learn that from experience, that if you go ahead and loosen these ones up and you remove them, and then the last one that's the hardest one to get is going to be tight the whole way out. So it's always best to attack the hardest to reach bolt first, and then after that you can just go ahead and remove all the other ones, because when the other ones are bolted on tight, you can pretty much just remove them by hand, by finger, and make your job a lot easier to access. So I already went ahead and removed the back one. I'm just removing these 2 front ones, loosen them up a little bit. Looks like they're still being held in there. See how this one's a little bit more difficult to remove now because it's the last one. That would have been our issue if I did that with the one all the way in the back, and we would have had not a good time installing this lift kit. So I'm gonna put my phone down and we can go ahead and pull this down. Like I said earlier, it won't just fall down, mainly because the sway bar is holding it in place. Since the other side is still bolted on, this side's gonna act just the same as the other side. So that's why it cannot just come down. So we have to go ahead and repeat the same process on the other side, bring it down at the same time, pretty much put the spacer that comes with the lift kit, and just do it all at the same time, and it'll make your life much easier. So let's go ahead and do the other side real quick. So after all those steps came the hard part, which was to remove a lot of the stuff, and obviously you need 2 hands for all of that. So first thing I went ahead and did is I loosened up the bolt this nut right here, which is a 19 millimeter, so that way I can move that arm out of the way. Obviously before that I had to remove this ball joint right here, which was connected here. That one was also a 19 millimeter. Used a wrench and then gave it a nice little whack with the hammer right in that little spot right there. Pop that right off. And then I also went ahead and loosened this bolt here, which is a 22 millimeter. That way I can get a little bit more play on this lower control arm and get all that out of the way. And then there's a 17 millimeter that's holding on the sway bar, which you can actually move out of the way so that you can access the actual suspension piece, which is, I guess you would still call it a coilover or a strut. And then we can go ahead and just pop this off like that. And now we can access the top to go ahead and put the spacer that comes in the kit, which is from MotoFab, I think is what the company's called. Out of the box, it's gonna be coming with these spacers that are gonna go right on top of both of the struts for the Tacoma. And you can see right there, they're pretty high quality. MotoFab is what they're called. And then for the rear, this is what we're gonna be getting. They're like blocks with U-bolts. From factory, the cars or the Tacomas and the Tundras already come with blocks, but these are just gonna be much taller blocks to give it, I think it's like a 2-inch lift in the rear, and we're gonna be giving it a 3-inch lift in the front, which will essentially level the truck out because they tend to have a little bit of forward rake. And then here are our spacers. You always want to make sure that you get some high quality stuff with a 6061 aluminum, and that they have this little lip here, which is going to be providing a little bit of extra support for the wheel to make sure that there's no vibrations or whatnot. So that's what you call Hubcentric. So, and then I ordered them in the black just so that they're a little bit more stealth and don't really stand out as much. So let's go ahead and do the front first. I'll probably end up putting these little spacers here on top of there, and then putting the spacers on the front wheels, and then we can get started on the back after that, which is going to be in this box here and this one right here. So essentially the way this spacer works, this is how it looks right here, is you just put it right over, you line it up with the existing bolts, and you're going to be using your stock hardware. So these are the stock nuts that you went ahead and removed when you removed the front struts. Let's go ahead and slide them back on. Move the other one out of the way. And there we are. So now all you have to do is go ahead and tighten it. Obviously this is a 14 millimeter, so I'm going to be using my Ryobi impact wrench. Just kind of sit them flush, spin it around. It's kind of interesting to do it with one hand, but obviously you kind of want to hold it in place as you do it. And there we are. So I'm just going to make sure that those are torqued down properly. And that's essentially our 3-inch lift. It multiplies, and then when you go ahead and put it on the vehicle, you're just going to be using the hardware that they provide, which is here, and you just go ahead and bolt it from the top. So one thing that I would recommend is putting some Loctite on them to make sure that they don't pop out, or you could be using some locking crush washers, which are not provided with the kit, but I'm guessing they're not really that necessary, so Loctite would probably be just fine. And then they also included this little thing right here. Enter a coupon code PC10 to receive 10% off your next order from MotoFabLifts.com. So if you guys are interested in getting a lift kit for your truck, I'm sure that they make a lot of different ones there, and there goes a 10% coupon code for you guys. So I got it back on, put some blue thread locker, put the bolt in down there. And before you do that stuff, you want to make sure you put this back. If not, it's going to be interfering with the spring a little bit. So I just hammered it down through, so you can still get it through, but if you don't want to scratch your springs, kind of how I did right there, then you can go ahead and bring the sway bar down before you actually fully install that, which it's kind of in the way, so it's kind of a weird design that they made it interfere with the strut, but hey, whatever works, I guess. So now it comes the difficult part, because we have to try to get this to mount back on to that ball joint. So the way you do it is you put a jack underneath it and you start lifting it up. So as you can see, I have a jack stand on the other side, and this jack was the one I originally lifted the car with. So once you start lifting this side up and it counteracts with that jack stand over there, we start getting some compression over here, and now I can finally actually reach this ball joint, which I was not able to reach before. So let's go ahead and put that back on. So here we are, everything is put back together. The only thing is that nothing is tightened down, mainly because what you want to make sure is that you compress everything. So as you can see, I have two jacks, one on each end. This is not absolutely necessary, but I feel that it really helps prolong the life of the bushings, because if you tighten it in a fully extended state, it's never going to be in that state. So when you go to lower the car down or lower the truck down, it's essentially going to be stretching the rubber bushings that are all, you know, all around. We have here, we have them down here, and then the ones on the arms over here. So what I did is I went ahead and compressed the suspension, so this is going to be how it's going to be when it is just sitting there parked. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to tighten everything down in this state. That way none of the bushings are seeing a little bit of extra tension, because I feel like that's going to decrease the life on the bushings and you're going to have them prematurely fail. So that's just a little tip that I throw in there from previous experience that I've done with these, you know, dealt with these vehicles with FJ Cruisers and Silverados and other trucks that I've done. So let's go ahead and tighten everything down now. Here we are, everything is nice and bolted down. Put the little cotter pin back in there. Got all the bolts perfectly tightened up back there. I had to actually strain this back out with that little stripe right at the top. So that's for the alignment, so the alignment doesn't go out of whack. You can make sure you mark it before, and I made sure that I did, and these were straight up, so I just had to put an inch and 1/8 wrench on that, straighten it back out, and then tighten it down. So now onto the spacers. So here is the front now with the lift kit. Added the 3 inches, already rolled it forward a little bit, so now it's much more taller. I don't know if you can notice it from the video of how it was before to where it's sitting at now. And then with the spacer, the tire is like lined up very nicely with the over fender or the fender flare. So now on to the rear. So for the rears, we are going to be installing the block right here where these U-bolts are at. So we're actually going to be right underneath these leaf springs. Right in between there, we're going to be installing the block, and then obviously the U-bolts are going to get deleted so we can put the longer ones, and they bolt straight down here. So it's a pretty straightforward process. They even have a little attachment in the middle that kind of guides you to put it in the right spot so your alignment doesn't get thrown off. So all we have to do is loosen the U-bolts, lift up the truck without lifting the axle, and then we should be able to slip on the new block and the new U-bolts, and hopefully this is just as easy as it sounds. So there we are. All I did was remove the bolts. They're all here. Got that bottom piece off. Push the U-joints, or the U-bolts actually. Push those upwards, and we're gonna get them out of the way right now before we lift the truck. That way it just leaves the axle on the floor and everything else lifts up. So now the next step after you remove the U-bolts, we're gonna go ahead and remove this bottom bolt for this shock. That way when we raise it, we can raise it without any issues and nothing interfering. So let's go ahead and do that. It's fairly simple. It's a 17 millimeter. Next step I had to do was to raise the truck. I put some pieces of 2x4 to get enough height to actually have a gap in between the axle and the leaf springs, and then I went ahead and put that piece on. So now the hard part is to try to get it all to line up again, as well as removing this bolt right here from the brake lines And then that bolt up there, that goes to the electronic diff lock, just so we're not stretching the cables too much. So now I just gotta try to line this up, sit it on there. There's that little marker right there. It's gonna go into this and like get stuck to make sure that the alignment is gonna be, you know, set properly. And we're not gonna be having any issues with that. Then we can go ahead and put the U-bolts back on and tighten it all back down. So I went ahead and lined them up, and then I had a secondary help me lower it down on the jacks. You can see the jacks are a bit lower now, and we got it lined up. If you look right in there, the little piece went straight in where it's supposed to go. So now we have both sides perfectly aligned. We can go ahead and put the U-bolts back on, and that's gonna be it for the lift kit in the rear. So let's go ahead and do that. So for a better look, here is the spacer. So normally the leaf springs would be touching right on top of the axle, but with the spacer there, you know, you can see that little added lift that it does there, about 2 inches I think is what the kit specified. And then the new U-bolts bolted down there with the new hardware. And then now what I did is I took off the wheel, I painted the brake drum, I guess is what they're called. Don't really see them too often on newer vehicles, but apparently this thing still has them. And then we put the spacers on here for the Tacoma. That way we can have similar fitment as we do in the front. So we're almost done, and while we are doing this, my dad is actually installing roof racks. So these are the OEM ones, and they're pretty cool because they have like a little bar that you can kind of take off the top and then cross it over, so you'll have something to bolt on, like kayaks or whatever you think you know you're planning on traveling with that doesn't fit in your trunk. So let's go ahead and put this wheel back on and lower it down and see how the fitment is in the rear now.
So here it is, guys. This is gonna be a little walk around, a little bit of a preview of how the Tacoma actually came out. It got quite a decent amount of wheel gap now. Before we were like probably around like half of this, and we actually were able to pretty much double the height with 3-inch lift kit in the front, and then there was a 2-inch in the rear. And then on top of that, we went ahead and added some 1.25 inch spacers all the way around from Yitamotor, which is another company that has sponsored the YouTube channel before. They make really high quality stuff, so we were able to put those on there. And we made sure that we got the Hubcentric ones because we don't want to have any issues with vibrations or them falling off or not being as safe. And then another thing that we added were these OEM top pieces where we can actually mount like kayaks to them. It has like an aluminum bar over here that you can cross over and, you know, vice versa, return back to where it's just like one piece, so it looks nice and sleek. So that's gonna be something for like kayaks or any other thing that we decide to bolt up there. And then on top of that, we went ahead and added some running boards on the side. These are some nice, you know, this is more of the style that everybody's using nowadays. None of that same old style where they had like the plastic tops that usually get all brittle. So we have all this, you know, it's all steel construction. So these are actually work as like rock sliders as well. So in case we're going off-road and we do end up hitting a rock, these are gonna take the impact, protect the doors, make sure nothing happens. And then obviously, you know, you guys saw the tires already. Those were mounted on previously. Just recently, I think we did it like last week, because the tires that came with it were getting a little bit worn out and we wanted something that was much meatier. So these are 285 70/17s. which is about like a 33-inch tire. That's probably like the biggest size you want to go with this lift kit that we're going, because our clearance is very close to touching when we're at full lock. And that's pretty much it that we have for now. We just try to get it all done. We probably did this in about like 2-3 hours. It was really simple. I didn't really record the video for the running boards, mainly because the Tacoma already has bolt holes down there. So you literally just take off the little covers, you put that on there, and you bolt it on. Simplest thing to do. Same thing with these top pieces right here. And you know, the hard part was installing the lift kit, but that's, you know, your typical lift kit is always going to be a little bit more difficult, having to unbolt, you know, all of the suspension and stuff like that, and you might need some help. But overall, I am really excited with how it turned out. It's looking amazing. You know, I like to lower my cars, but my trucks, I like to raise them. So that's one of the things that always captivates me, to be able to see them like crawling and seeing the articulation on the Tacomas or on the Jeeps that I've had before that. So the only thing left to do now is to enjoy it. Might go take it off-road, but we still haven't decided when. So for now, you guys get to enjoy this beautiful Tacoma, see how it looks. We'll do a little bit of walk around for you guys, and that's gonna be it for the video. Hope this video helped you guys out, and hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe and leave a like.